I'd like to start off by clarifying what this video is not about. This video is not about the bikes Cervélo makes. This video is not about all the hardworking employees. And this video is not about any political views or ideologies I think you should or should not support. Cervélo makes great bikes, and I genuinely believe they have many talented individuals working there. What this video is about is my personal experiences while employed at Cervélo, dealing with unprofessional and uncomfortable situations in the workplace. My following comments pertain specifically to the marketing department and human resources, and how I was treated when I expressed my concerns to these groups. If Cervélo would like to respond to or challenge anything I say here, I will pin their comment to the top. I believe in open and honest dialogue for complete transparency. With that said, hello, I'm David Cornell. I was employed at Cervélo in the marketing department last year with the entry-level position of marketing coordinator. To say I was excited to be there would be an understatement. Cervélo has always been a brand I highly admired. I even saved up working multiple jobs during university to buy my first high-end road bike in 2010, a Cervélo R3. It felt like a dream come true to join the team. During my first week, I met with people from various departments set up by HR to understand how things functioned. While these meetings generally went well, I found it puzzling when I was asked more than once about why we sponsor a certain team, and I was even questioned if I was here to fix marketing. I brushed it off at the time, but it felt like an odd introduction to the company. My first meeting with a colleague from marketing, who manages all things digital, was very bizarre. She quickly boasted to me that she deliberately maintains a following of 666 on the company's Instagram, even laughing about it. This, along with the unusual references to 666 I later found on Cervélo's website, made me uncomfortable, but I remained silent as it was my first week. In another meeting, early on, the marketing director made disparaging comments pertaining to Elon Musk, saying how great it is watching Twitter crash and burn. I found that unprofessional, but chose not to speak up. Soon after, he asked me to purchase large metal photos for the office, specifically stating 666, paint the effing walls with this. His frequent use of vulgar language was alarming, and I struggled to reconcile that with my expectations of a professional workplace. Every other word that came out of his mouth was effing this and effing that. I felt uncomfortable with how he communicated, but kept my mouth shut. I was also very disturbed with the marketing department's obsession with 666 and how they abused the company's assets to promote it. During my second week, I overheard troubling remarks about my boss, the brand manager, and things she said regarding sponsorship decisions, specifically pertaining to a comment she made at a company event saying, "We only sponsor them because they are not white." When I heard this multiple times from several different colleagues, it was clear that this was a topic of discussion that didn't sit right with many people working there. Despite these experiences, I kept my head down and focused on my work. My weekly meetings with my boss seemed fine, although she frequently spoke to me in a condescending manner. I was shocked when she criticized me for not knowing the names of everyone working for Cervélo just a few days into my job. I felt uncomfortable and surprised that she would speak to me that way as a new hire. She would also say things to me like, "We even paid you extra," and ask me, "Are you not happy with your job?" When asking basic questions related to work, I have never been treated with such hostility in the workplace. I once again felt uncomfortable. Regardless of this treatment, she would conclude every meeting by telling me I'm doing a great job and that I should be proud of all the work I'm doing. I would also always follow up asking if there are any areas I can improve on or things of concern I can work on, which she would always respond, "No." Needless to say, I was absolutely shocked when I was put on a performance improvement plan less than a month into my role, despite being told repeatedly that I am doing a great job. I was left speechless. When I sought help and stomached the courage to finally speak with HR about my concerns regarding the workplace environment, including the use of vulgar language, obsession with promoting 666, and things management in my department would say, I was told to simply accept it as the norm. I know it's not okay to use vulgar language excessively in the workplace. I know it's not okay to impose your views on others regarding ideologies such as LGBTQ+, and politics. And I know it's not okay to exploit company assets for personal gain promoting 666. I wasn't happy with how HR treated me, but I had nowhere else to go. I kept my head down, again, and just did my job. I felt gaslighted, and it left me feeling isolated. Weeks went by, and I passed the performance improvement plan without any issues, earning positive remarks on my performance. I had hoped things would improve after my meeting with HR, but that was not the case. In our department's Google chat, I read derogatory comments from the director and manager of social media about Chloe Dygert, a highly decorated American cyclist. The marketing director called her an awful human, and the social media manager said she sucks. When I inquired about it, my boss told me she was transphobic. Curious as to why they would say these things, I looked online and found that Chloe had gotten in trouble with sponsors, such as Rafa, who publicly shamed her, sending an email to all their customers because she liked other individuals' Twitter posts, some of which contain the subject matter saying biological men should not be competing in women's sports. This raised more questions for me, especially since I shared similar views. I once again felt isolated. Over time, I became increasingly disillusioned with Cervélo's workplace culture. The director of marketing often made inappropriate remarks, including hateful comments about states that are associated with religion and certain political figures, such as Donald Trump. The director even referred to Donald Trump as Hitler. I felt that was extremely unprofessional, but chose not to speak out again given my previous experience with HR. Months had gone by since passing the performance improvement plan, and then out of nowhere, I received an email from the director of marketing, who CC'd HR and accused me of being unprofessional for a LinkedIn message where I mentioned my work in custom cycling apparel to a colleague. This was incredibly frustrating because Cervélo had initially approached me about creating custom apparel for them. I never asked or solicited Cervélo to make cycling apparel for them, and they approached me. Of course, I was happy to do so and even checked with management, who said it was cleared with human resources as not an issue. So why all of a sudden was this an issue? It's clear to me my department did not like me at this point and was waiting for any opportunity to get me out of there. I couldn't believe it, and I felt like I was being sabotaged. My message with the colleague wasn't even a solicitation, as I was responding to a message they had sent me asking if there's anything they can do to help, at which point I only mentioned that if they ever need custom apparel, that I would be happy to chat. Shortly after this email, I sent an email to the director of marketing, the brand manager, human resources, and newly appointed managing director to address these claims. I asked for complete transparency and that we all meet to discuss. HR decided to meet with individuals separately instead of addressing the issues openly, something I had asked for more than once but was always disregarded. I wanted to avoid a he said, she said situation through an open and honest conversation, but they all got together and painted me as an incompetent employee. Towards the end, right before my termination, the director of HR for Palm Bike Performance took over the issue. This individual oversees HR for some of the 20-plus bike brands owned by Palm, including but not limited to Cervélo, Santa Cruz, Cannondale, GT, and others. My discussions with the director of HR for Palm Bike Performance was very disturbing. He would ask me questions such as, how is it racist to say we only sponsor them because they are not white? I would then suggest that we look up the definition of racism so we can both agree on what racism is, and then apply that to the statement, we only sponsor them because they are not white. Rather than us both agreeing on what the definition of racism is, or even looking into it, he proceeded to tell me how rude I am for making such a suggestion. He also joked to me about the marketing department's obsession with 666 and compared it to 420 and marijuana. He also brought up a story about a parking ticket number and having 666 in it, thinking it was funny. I found this behavior very troubling, and this is the individual overseeing all of HR for Palm Bike Performance. This individual also asked me if I was familiar with Title VII and who is protected by law in the workplace. I found this question strange, but he continued to lecture me on this as well as how California is an employment at will state and that they can fire me at any time for any reason. I was also told by HR that it's not against the law to be evil. I'll repeat that one more time. I was told by HR that it's not against the law to be evil. The director of HR would also make random comments during our discussions, such as, I think DEI is great. I didn't know how to respond to or have any comments to make, but I did notice that they delayed Cervélo's mandatory DEI training when I was being interviewed by HR. Soon after, the director of HR for Palm Bike Performance flew down to Southern California and fired me for lack of job performance. He also told me, off the record, that sometimes people aren't a good fit. Cervélo then held their mandatory DEI training and showed a wheel of privilege chart, similar or possible to what I will put up on the screen here. Feel free to pause and look at this, but this is not the point of the video. I only share it because Cervélo claims to be inclusive and tolerant of others, but my experience showed me that they are very far from that. My goal in sharing my experience is to highlight that it's not acceptable to treat people poorly in the workplace. I want to promote meaningful discussions about what should not be tolerated. I believe that if we want a healthy society, we must respect each other as individuals and foster an environment where open dialogue can occur without fear of retaliation. I believe evil protects evil and censors the truth. I'm here to share the truth no matter what the consequences are. Sometimes reasonable people do unreasonable things. I made a sincere effort on multiple occasions to try to resolve things amicably, but was constantly gaslighted by Cervélo. The purpose of this video is to let Cervélo and Palm Bike Performance know that it's not okay to treat people like this, and the truth will win. I encourage everyone to think carefully before speaking up in their workplace, as it can come with risks. However, I felt compelled to share my side, hoping it might inspire others to consider their own experiences. We need to love and respect one another more than we criticize and hate each other. Thank you for listening.